Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over. In the last episode, we saw a few events happen. We saw a small war break out over here between Malaysia, the yellow team that was over here, and Thailand. We saw a lot of alliances expand and also one decrease. And we finally saw resolutions was started to be drawn out over here. So let's take a look at today's or so with that let's my mind is blanking. I'm sorry. So with that, let's get started with today's episode. Alright, so actually we're gonna start off right here. As we do see one more movement is made. The blue team, despite there being currently being a ceasefire, will break that ceasefire and march through the green team troops. They want to take over some of these lands, but obviously the green team won't want that. So what they do is they march south through the blue team's territory and take over this major city, hoping to use it as a bargain. But when that won't work, they move down to take over more land here, and this makes Switzerland really upset. So Switzerland is going to send aid to these guys and pretty much tell them, do whatever you can, get that land back. So they will storm up through this they will storm up through this green country, and they start taking over land rapidly. They move up, and as they're about to near this uh major city, Switzerland's gonna be like, you know what, this is enough land. I'm sure that this is enough bargain. But the blue team already has their mind set as they capture this major city and move down through this, or to capture this major city, putting the country in two. They then move up to capture the capital, but they will decide to redirect their forces down south, and they move in to take all three of their major cities back. This one up here, however, they do not capture, as a small holdout is made right there. Other small holdouts are made across the country. However, one by one they start to fall as we see the troops move up. And eventually, this entire area becomes surrounded. However, the it becomes the new deadliest battle as a siege begins on the city. But while this is happening, the rest of the countries, which are Tanzania, Ethiopia, Mozambique, Madagascar, and the Purple Team, the Great Empire, Switzerland, the Great Lakes Empire, and Korea are now all drawing up a peace treaty. So the orange team here. However, since these two are still battling, they do not agree on anything right now, and there's not really any sign of them stopping. Eventually, we s- eventually we see the blue team is able to finally capture the city back. Oops. They finally capture the city, and now they're willing to agree to a peace treaty. However, the green team still doesn't want to, but eventually we see the Great Empire is like, just agree to it. We'll figure stuff out later. Wink, wink. So let's take a look at a peace treaty. Alright, so here we see what the peace treaty looks like. We'll start off with South Africa, as they get a very large chunk of land. Also, I did follow provinces. Maybe I might regret that. That looks horrendous. But after all of this, you may notice one thing. There is a country that doesn't exist. Obviously, I'm talking about the orange team here, who, well, like I just said, they don't exist after all of their land was annexed. So let's see, this is all going over to Madagascar. So they get a small little colony here. They're also still they are now the second weakest of all the countries that were involved in this. So there's one country that is weaker than them, and it is not Tanzania. It's this pink country. They lost to pretty much all their major cities other outside of their capital. So if you ask me, that seems like they lost a lot. Um, okay, so we're gonna actually do this from South Africa. They also got that. I forgot. We're gonna do Gold Mozambique first here, as they get that single province out of the Green Team, and then all of this land here. Oh yeah, that's right. This here also goes to the Blue Team. But Gold Mozambique now just became one of the strongest countries here, and they are the second strongest that was involved. At first, it was Ethiopia, or not Ethiopia. Well, they're the strongest of the countries that was actually doing war stuff. Ethiopia was Ethiopia's been first. They're not fall. They're not fallen. And I forgot to get Tanzania color out. That's okay. So this purple country now looks like that. We'll go through. It's Ethiopia. They did not get all that. It's way too short. Right. Yes, that border also looks horrendous. Do you know? And yes, also Ethiopia gets these islands way out here. It looks like Tanzania didn't need to get their color out, because I left it there. Nope, I didn't. I thought I did. Yeah, you guys can see the resemblance between these two, right? Alright. Well, we got that war sorted out. Oh yeah, and then the green team also gets that. So gets that, and they get that and that. And the blue team gets these weird little scraps. Alright, now that's all done. But now we move on to our next thing that's going on, as we actually head up to the Siberians over here. So taking a look at their ideology, well, they're fascists. They also own a lot of land. They're probably the biggest country in the world right now. Maybe the Great Empire's larger. But yeah, they're not doing too well. If you take a look at the definitely totally super up to date map here, definitely doesn't have stuff from many episodes ago. Well, they're they're red. They're in red. They're not the only country in red. There were two others, but one of those countries doesn't even exist anymore. The other is actually probably still in red because they lost a lot. But actually, well, we're gonna stay on the ideology layer. I think this blue here, as actually a few countries got reformed governments. I just don't ask, don't ask. Ideology there. Okay, so we're gonna update the ideology map if there's like a circle or country used to be but isn't anymore. I'm not caring about that. Like over here. All right. So both of these guys now have democracies as their government. Same with the cyan team over here. This country right here also now has a thing for democracy. And coming over here, they kind of already do, but they now have a full democracy. You also see the same this happened with Ethiopia. They now have a unflawed democracy as their government. Man, I really need to update this. But we see what we're really seeing here is countries are starting to fall out from the monarchy stage. This is mainly from Ethiopia, actually. They're the main ones doing this. But it's not just them, as we see other countries are also kind of going into flawed democracies. Ethiopia is really installing the full thing into countries. Many other countries have turned to a flawed democracy. Um, but that's not the only ideology we see rising, as one more country has now turned fascist, and that country is coming down here, Red Australia. Red Australians seem to have a thing for being fascist, but we're gonna go one layer up, as this is gonna need an update, and a very big one at that. Alright, so I did not grab that color. Okay, alright. So, Michigan. They now have 38 newts. America now has 2. That's less than they had. They have 6. Up in Switzerland, they are now at 17. Great Lakes Empire, well, they hit 50. Ethiopia is now at 42, surpassing the Great Lakes Empire. And Korea has gone up a very large amount, as they have now reached 22. So still pretty small amount, but decent enough for them. China, they didn't get they didn't really get as high as Korea, as they have 12 now. And over in West Africa, they only have 2. They got 1 more. We see Guinea now has a nuke. And I forgot to do something here. Again. So we see the Great Lakes Empire is now storing 10 of their 50 nukes in another country. We see 3 of those are being stored here in the Adriatic Union. We see 3 more are being stored here in Catalonia. We see 2 are given over to Tibet, or not Tibet, Pakistan. And the final 2 are given out to Mexico. Those colors really overlap. That up. But now we see other countries are starting to store their nukes elsewhere. Ethiopia has 3 stored elsewhere. All 3 of them out here in West Mexico. We see South China. They actually didn't get any more nukes. In Russia, they now have 9 nukes too. And our final country with nukes, I don't, these guys, okay, I don't know if these guys actually had nukes or not in the last episode, but Sumatra has 3 nukes. So, we see a lot more nuclear powers have gotten throughout the world, but, we see nuclear programs are starting to slow down a bit, and global tensions kind of starting to come a bit more to an ease, although still extremely high up. Alright. But that will do it for today's episode of What If Civilization Started Over. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.